Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to this video. And in this video guys, we're going to discuss and I'm going to teach you how to implement functions in our C program. So basically guys, a C function is a self-contained block of statements that can be executed repeatedly whenever we need it. So if you think about it, it is just, a group of statements that we could call and we could use repeatedly within our C program. So in this particular video, guys, we're going to discuss the benefits of using the functions in C program. We will also discuss the two types of functions in C, also the parts of function, the function prototype, the function definition, and of course, we're going to discuss also how to call a function inside our C program. And lastly, we will implement a basic program to illustrate the addition of two numbers using user-defined function. So if you're excited, guys, please make sure to watch the full video. You will learn more in this particular video tutorial. And by the way, guys, if you are new here in our YouTube channel and you like content about programming, so go ahead, make sure to subscribe and press the notification bell so you'll get updated whenever we have a new upload regarding different programmings or different topics. So we have topics Python, Java, JavaFX, C programming, and many other topics regarding programming. So now let's try to talk about the benefits of using function in C. So there are a lot of functions that we could associate in using function inside our C program. So the first one is modularity. So when we are using functions, it could provide modularity in our code. So it means that we could define different functions. We could readily call our functions, and we could call this particular function if we need it or we need to execute certain statements. And of course, guys, the function also provides reusable code, meaning it will save us a lot of space, and it could be, our code could be more readable by using this particular function feature. So that's readable or reusable code. And then in large programs, debugging and editing tasks is easy with the use of functions. So functions make it easy for us to implement our programs. So the program can be modularized into smaller parts. That's what I have said earlier, that we could develop a certain module inside our C program, and then we could call that particular module or statements or group of statements if we need in a particular situation. And the next one is separate function independently can be developed according to the need. So for example, guys, we could group our statements depending on the need, or depending on the function or the purpose of that statement. So we could group that statements and place it inside our C function. So actually, guys, there are two types of functions in C. So the first one is, let me type it here, type of functions. We have the first one, built-in function. Okay, so built-in function, of course the system provided these functions and stored in the library, therefore it is called library functions. So we have, like, we are using scanf, printf, strc py, strlwr, strcmp, strlen, strcat, and many more functions that are already available for us whenever we try to run a program. So from the previous tutorials, we have used the printf. So as you can see, this particular function, we did not implement this. The system provided it for us, the printf, and this particular function will let us display certain objects or statements that we want to display inside our C program. So to use these functions, you just need to include the appropriate C header file. So that's why we have here the include statement at the top of our program. So basically, we're including all the necessary function that we could use inside our C program. And of course, guys, the second type of method is what we call the user-defined functions. User-defined functions. Okay, so user-defined functions. These are the functions that are defined by the user at the time of writing the program. So that's basically us, or the programmer, that define the functions. Okay, and then of course the same with the built-in function. We could readily use this particular functions inside our C program. Now there are also parts of our function in C programming language. We have the function declaration. We also have the definition, and we also have the function call. So this is basically the actual flow of the function. We have the function declaration, and then we have the definition. We have, of course, the function call if you want to use that particular function. So we have here, for example, syntax for function declaration. So we could this will be the function declaration. This is just an example, guys, on how you could declare a certain function. So the syntax for that is data type, and then function name, and then of course open and close parentheses, and then in here we can specify the parameter list, okay, or the variables that we want to use inside this particular function. So our example of that is like this: int, which is the data type, and of course addition, which is the name of our function. So addition, and then the return type is int, and then of course the list of parameters, and in this case we don't have any parameter in this particular function addition. So we also have the function definition. This is actually what the actual function would look like. So this will be function declaration, or function definition. Okay, so we could the basic syntax to this is return type, and then the function name, and then function arguments, and then curly braces. So it should include the close or open and close curly braces, and then inside here is the body of the function, or simply the statements that we want to execute inside this particular function. So whenever we want to call this function, this will be the statements that would be executed inside this particular function. So in order for us to call a function inside our C program, we just need to specify the method name, and of course we need to supply parameters if there are any, and we would also need to specify the return type of our function. So now let's try to implement a simple program that that could illustrate the addition of two numbers using user-defined function. So we have here the main function, right? And then in here, after the main, or after the closing curly brace of our main function, we could create our own function right here. Let me close this first so you can see better. So we could add a function here returning the total of two numbers. Okay, So we could declare it like this, int and then addition, open and close parentheses, and then open and close curly braces. And of course, guys, as I've said, this will be the body of our function. So in here we could define local variables. Okay, so local variables. So for example, we have int num1 equals 10, and then num2 equals 5. Okay, so these are local variables, meaning these are the variables that are declared and defined inside the addition method or function. Okay, so we could say here return and then num1 plus num2. Okay, so that's the statement that we want to execute whenever we try to call the addition method, or I mean function. So inside our main function, we could call this method addition. So we could declare a variable here, int answer, and then we could say answer equals and then the addition. So basically, whatever the return value of this addition method, it will be assigned into our answer variable. And of course, we could print or display this particular value. So we could say the total of two numbers is, and then the format specifier, which is, %d, and then the answer, which is the answer variable. Okay, so we could, build and run our application, and then we have here the output. The total of two numbers is 15. Okay, so that's how the function works. And as you can see here, we have defined our function with the statements inside our C function to return the total of the number 1 and number 2. And then inside our main function, we have declared the answer, and then the type is int, of course, because the int is should correspond to the return type of this particular function. And then answer equals the addition, and then the last thing that we did here is to display the total of two numbers, and in this case 10 and 5, which makes it, the value or the output is 15. So I think that's all there is to it, guys, for this tutorial. If you have, questions regarding this, please let me know in the comment section. And in the next video, guys, we're going to discuss how we could, add arguments into our functions. So thank you for watching, guys, and see you in the next video.